驚いた。君にはまだ私が見えてるんだ。
What's up, everyone? Welcome to 3 out of 10 anime fans. Recommend you check out this podcast if you ever get reincarnated into another world, aka 3 out of 10 anime. This show is all about having fun conversations to rank anime based on a standard set of criteria so they can be organized, compared, and contrasted. We discuss a different show or movie each week, so whether you're a seasoned weeb or new to the genre, we know you'll have a good time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Here's the agenda for each episode. We start by giving our first impressions of the show in one sentence. Then we go into our personal enjoyment. We each have our own rubrics on a scale of 1 to 10 where we rank the show on how much we enjoyed watching it. Then we all collectively discuss the technical accomplishment and assessment of the show based on 4 criterias till we come up with a combined 1 to 10 score. Finally, at the end, we give our recommendations for what you should watch if you like this show and announce what we are covering next week. I'm Brett.
I'm Skylar.
And I'm Braden.
We are your hosts from the United States. We each have varying opinions, tastes, and backgrounds, which should result in some interesting and relatable dialogue, no matter who you are. Joining us as a special guest this week is Bridget. Bridget is, among many other things, a professional harpist, a lover of good romance anime. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Hello, sorry that I talked too soon.
Glad you're here. And we're glad everyone else is here joining us for our discussion about this week's show, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. A comedy, romance, drama, anime available on Crunchyroll. We are covering everything. We are covering the entire first season. The second season has been announced, coming up later in 2022/early 2023, which is exciting. But we're covering season 1. We will not be covering the movie. That's going to be its own separate episode. It might be referenced here, but we're covering the show specifically. Because I mentioned both the show and the movie, spoiler warning for both. Expect spoilers. If you don't want any, go watch everything, come back, and watch it later. So without further ado, how would you all describe your first impressions of Bunny Girl Senpai in one sentence?
Oh, goodness. I'm still reeling from the fact that there's another season coming out. I thought for sure this thing was done after the movie. Like, for sure.
Yeah.
Anywho,
I'm super glad. I can start with my first impression sentence. For me, Bunny Girl Senpai was a show that shattered all of my expectations the entire way through, yet I was ecstatic about it.
Mm-hmm.
That is my one sentence.
You know, I'll toss it right after you. Rascal dreams of or does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai? Yeah, does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, or Rascal, as we're going to probably refer to hereafter, is a show that probably needs the title to draw us in, because how do you title the show? It is amazing in some weird, unique ways that I love.
Sweet. Sky.
A master of sarcasm is a magnet for trouble, and yet handles it well.
Yeah.
Okay. Bridge.
I will say it is a show that when you tell someone to watch it, they give you a weird look, but then when they go watch it, they thank you that you told them to.
As I did for you guys, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and as I did for Skylar. So I was originally recommended this show by Skylar, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, "Just trust me, just watch it." And I was like, "Okay." And I saw this TikTok the other day that was like, the description of the TikTok was like, what it's like telling your friend to watch an anime. And the guy was like, yeah, it's this incredible existential investigation into the emotions and feelings of youth and growing up and becoming yourself and developing intimate relationships with other people in a really deep way. You're gonna love it. Oh, what's the show called? I mean, well, it's called Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, but you just need to watch it. Like, it was so Yeah, it's really, really, it really hit the nail on the head. So let's all go around now, and let's each give our personal enjoyment ranking on a scale of 1 to 10, and each person talk a little bit about why, and then we'll go into all of our reasons and explanations. Who wants to start?
Why don't you start us off? Kick us in, Brett.
Okay, I will kick
You're
us
looking
in.
so fine. You're number one today. Absolutely.
Thank you. I had to go with I was gonna put a bow tie on, but that's her job. Okay, so
True.
for me,
True.
Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, I give an 8.5. So for me, an 8 is a show that I thought was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it, but it had some flaws or some things that were present enough to distract me from the super good aspects of it. And a 9 is a show that I just love. And it has a couple tiny things that I don't really like, just barely keeping me from a 10. So for me, Bunny Girl is right up there. 8.5, it's really high. It's a show that I really, really enjoyed. Very minor things I really didn't like. I believe it's somewhere near my top 20. If not in my top 20. So
Good.
yeah, it's right up there.
Good.
Braden?
Yep. So this one for me got a 9 out of 10. And really, it's kind of in the Mob Psycho 100 vibes, is that it is good. It is incredibly good. I gave Mob Psycho a 9 out of 10 as well, because neither of these, while these two animes are just phenomenal in story, in characters, the message I could take away from them, the experience I had watching the first or second or third time, incredible. The only hard note is I haven't carried anything from these shows into my life, into an actual tangible change. That's my 10 scoring. So absolute stellar anime. That I just that's yep. Bop, 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 bop. Yep, there it is.
Sweet. Skylar.
So the rating that I originally gave it was an 8.5, but I'm actually gonna have to bump it up to a 9.
Yo.
Wow.
And
Okay.
a part of the reason is that I recently got my hands on the novel for it.
Oh.
And so I was rereading essentially Rascal, and it kind of brought back all these memories again of how much I enjoyed the series. And yeah, my relationship with the series is kind of interesting because I came across the manga first.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the first arc in the manga, and then I discovered there was an anime. So I started watching the anime, and when it continued on past the first arc, I was very confused.
Mm.
And so I watched the whole anime, found the other manga, read the mangas, and I've just really enjoyed the series. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 9, and then just as a quick reminder on what my 9 means, it is a show that I really enjoyed. I will readily recommend, and I will probably watch it again alone.
Sweet. Okay, Bridget.
Bridget.
I gave an 8.5, and my rating is kind of similar to Brett's, where it had some little things that I didn't like or found annoying, but it overall was really enjoyable to watch. I didn't want to stop watching it, and I would recommend it to anyone. So it's up there as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sweet. So we all have this one really high. Why? Why was this one so high for everybody?
Oh man, I'm just a rascal at heart. What can I say? No, actually, let me put this the better way. I wish I could be this rascal. This guy's wit is insane. Like, he is so on the nose. Every single thing that he says, it's so refreshing. It's almost enlightening for me to aspire to be this guy's charisma. Because goodness gracious, did he get that girl? Absolutely.
To build on Braden's point as well, he's a breath of fresh air compared to basically every other main character in a romance comedy. Because if he has something on his mind, he'll say it.
Yep.
He's not afraid of saying something, and he's also sharp. Like, He's not someone who's like, oh, is she dropping hints? He's not stupid.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
actually
especially
gets what's going on and comments on it.
yeah, especially
remember-
in
Yeah.
like that genre of like the shonen protagonist who like has all of the women and he's like unaware of it. This one he was like aware of it. Like he still was getting all of the women, but he, wasn't gonna
Uh-huh.
hide about it. So yeah, it was refreshing to see because it
So-
was very, yeah, on point.
I was just rewatching it, getting ready for the podcast. And early on, the main girl Mai calls out this Rascal boy and says, "Hey, you were having lewd thoughts about me, weren't you?" Like, and I'm gonna emphasize, this is not a sexual show. Like,
Yeah.
despite the bunny girl outfit existing, it's not referenced like any kind of lewdness. So they're doing this in play. She says, "Hey, you were thinking lewd thoughts about me, weren't you?" And he responds, "I was thinking something 100 times more lewd than you could ever imagine." It just like bam, snap, that's it. And
Yeah.
they just go on with it. Like they just both run with it. Both okay, so I'm talking about Sakuta, our main boy here, but Mai is right at his level the whole time. And it's cute and it's adorable watching them go because it's like, wow, if only, right?
And just so everyone knows, if there is mature content in a show, we do call it out in the beginning. We didn't for this one because there's really not. Like there's some more mature jokes and stuff, but there's never like any.
There is there's a motif they use over and over again where there's a bath scene.
True.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. There are some bath scenes. That is correct.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you for calling that out.
And it's like those are the moments where they have like deep personal conversations where he's outside the door and she's inside taking the bath, or whoever the girl is
that scene.
taking a bath and just jeez. Yeah, which one?
And-
Which scene are we talking about?
Good reminder. I'm talking about the scene you were talking
No,
about.
there's like they do okay, spoilers.
lot.
They
Oh.
do it with all the girls.
Yes,
all of
okay,
them
they do it with
go
all
in.
the girls, but the one I'm specifically thinking
Yeah.
about, actually, one of the main scenes I was thinking about was when he was in the bath and oh crap, Shoko was outside.
Oh no.
That scene. Anyway, before we go further into the show, let me piggyback on what Bridget and Skylar were saying, which is one of the things I really liked was it was a more refreshing romance anime where they can get a little generic, they can get a little, copy paste. This one did feel more refreshing in more ways than one. The characters, the fact that you actually saw them in a relationship for the majority of the show rather than like the last 2 episodes.
Yep.
I really enjoyed that. The fact that you got to see them be more physically close than in other
It's true.
wholesome romance anime. None of us are really into hentai. And
Correct.
yeah, so there were a lot of things that like for me were a breath of fresh air about the romance side of the show. But then, and I'm going to transition into another topic, but then for me, the thing I loved about it was that
Oh.
my one sentence said that this show shattered expectations. So first off, the title, Rascal Doesn't Dream About a Girl Senpai. It's a really fishhook title.
Absolutely.
And episode 1, she's in the bunny suit, and you're like, okay,
There
all
it
right, yeah,
is.
this is the show. But then it's nothing like what you think it's going to be a couple episodes later. And then a couple episodes later, you're like, wait a second, this might be a deep show. And then a few episodes later, you're like, holy crap, this show is deep, like deep.
Oceans deep.
And then you get to the last couple episodes and you're freaking emotional. It is like,
Yeah.
it
I-
pulls at your heartstrings
I
like a
cried
lot.
at the Kaede arc at the very end. I
did
bawled.
too.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
And it-
smokes.
And I
So
don't
good.
know that there's any show I've seen that has tried to tackle like deeply emotional like psychological topics and romance and kind of day in the life drama and wove it together so well into one narrative that it all just felt so natural. And by the end, you're sitting there going, holy cow, that was like so much was said, but you didn't have to read into it too far if you didn't want to.
You can just absorb
but you
it.
could go for days. It was incredible that way. Like I went in thinking it was going to be a fun little cute romance show with a bunny girl outfit, and then walked away going, man, that was heavy. Like,
Yeah.
so good.
No, time and time again, I found myself like having just like soaked it in. Like, it's like you said, it's a lot. They throw a lot of characters, interactions, experiences, situations that you like in 20 minutes, like every single episode. And it's one of those animes that you sit there and you think back, and as you're doing so, you're like, oh wait, those connections actually happened. That actually is a bridge that mattered this whole time. Like at one point, or like way at the start, our main boy here, Sakata, references that there was a girl from his past that was a thing. And they made a big impact on his life. And then like 5 episodes later, there's a call to that you don't recognize it when it comes up. It just shows up. And then at the end, it comes back again. This same girl reference comes back again as a major point. And you can start figuring that out if you sit and think about it. And it just hit me.
Yeah.
It just broadsided me. Like that many other little moments like that.
And it makes you think, like, once you realize, wait a second, this show is an introspection on the teenage psyche and like what you go through internally as you are going through puberty and growing up, if those things were manifested physically. And so then you're sitting there asking yourself like, okay, well, is this character real? Is it someone from inside of himself that he can converse with to help him deal with past trauma? Like you start asking yourself these like deeper questions and questioning. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you do, and it's so good.
And now we've said the actual hook of this show, Brett. You just finally promoted it. This show exhibits these weird paranormal existences of mental disorders. There it is. That's what it is. People who are learning, like in this instance, high school kids learning and growing, have these serious traumas that they're dealing with, and they're being exhibited in paranormal ways. The first girl, the girlfriend, she's a major show. She's an actor. Sorry, there's the word. She's an actor that decides she wants to needs to take a break from acting. And as soon as she does, people start not being able to notice her. Period. They can't see her. They can't interact with her. They don't remember her. And that's weird.
Quite. So it takes a few years for that to happen. What happens is that she's so tired of everyone looking at her that she wishes she were in a place where no one knew that she was a celebrity. And no one knows who she is. And then when the plot starts rolling, people stop being able to see her. That is the whole premise, is that she's in the library being like, will people notice? Because me being in this outfit, if people see me, they're gonna stare, and that's what I'm checking.
So is that from the manga? It had been a couple years progress?
So it's given a bit more detail in the novel and the manga. But even in the anime, it is brought up that she stopped acting like 2 or 3 years ago. And then the events are only happening just then.
Okay.
But one thing that I will say about that is that's why I raised my rating from an 8.5 to a 9, is because of these details and because of just how well they were executed. And I just really, really enjoyed it.
Not to take away from your point though, Braden, I think you were still correct in saying she wanted a break of people
absolutely.
always noticing her. So I think you were saying the same thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. Bridge, why'd you have it so high? Like, what were the things that stood out to you?
Like everyone said, it's a great story. It's very unique. Like, I feel like nothing else has really been done like it before. And I really liked the art. I know we'll get to that later, but I thought that the characters were really nice. And then just the characters and their interactions, their personalities and everything. And I liked how it presented these issues in like a way that you probably haven't like thought of before. Like, yeah, we know that bullying is a thing in school, but what if it looked like this? Like, what if when you got bullied, you would get, scars all over your arms randomly? And it makes you think about like the question of, and I think that this was one of the messages it was trying to get across, is that what if, like, would we take mental illness as seriously as we do physical illness, if it were to be manifested this way? I
Oof.
think that that was like one of the things. And when I realized that, it like hit me really hard. I was like, wow, like that's like, you can't deny that that is a point that they were trying to make. Like, obviously, like, it's not enough to be like, is it not enough for your kid to say that they're getting bullied? Like, would they have to come to you covered in bruises, if for you to like believe them, like that kind of thing? So I thought that that was really powerful, as well as like a commentary on like what uh, adolescents and kids go through, especially these days with like social media and like cyberbullying. Like that was one of the things that Kaide went through. So it was just so deep, but it was in such like
Yeah.
a nicely presented package. And yeah, like you said, it like every couple episodes was a new issue, and it got deeper and deeper and deeper until you got to it unraveled the whole story about how Sakata got his big scars and everything. Like the whole show, that was like basically a mystery up until the last kind of arc, and it like would slowly hint
Mhm.
at it. So I just thought it was really well done, because like as soon as you thought you knew what the show is about, it's like, oh, these different segments about these different mental things
Mhm.
being related to these different thought experiments and whatever.
Mhm.
And then like the real story, like the real meat of the show is eventually revealed, and you're like, oh, that's why we were doing this the whole time. Like that was the real point of the show. So
Mhm.
it was just
I
really
want to touch on,
powerful.
I want to touch on something you said there, Bridget. Because there was a very fun note throughout this entire show where where what was her name? Futaba.
Futaba. Mhm.
This character, the scientist girl, always in the lab, always making coffee out of beakers. She's the one you go to when you want to have conversation about what's going on, and she's like, there is some metaphysical quantum physics, mumbo jumbo. We're gonna tie this all together with, and it's cool to see them apply. I mean, it's kind of not a straight line, but
Yeah.
it's fun. It's like a fun analogy to say, hey, here's mental illness. Here's a crazy thing that's happening. Here's quantum physics. And just like, whoop, they're all together.
Uh-huh.
They do that with
And what's
every scenario.
crazy, what's also crazy about that is how so many of the references they made to quantum physics were fairly close.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a physicist. I am very passionate about physics, and so I was able to very closely track what they were saying. Skylar is going to be able to talk about this as well. He and I are both in the same boat here. And as they walked through the different things, I was like, okay, wow, they're actually tracking some real like theories and quantum concepts that exist in a way that actually makes sense, where most people it might kind of like be like an extra little thing to throw in there to be funny, but it was actually well done. Like I was really surprised.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were, because they lead in with the first arc being about Schrodinger's cat. Like,
Yep.
mhm.
you can't, like, it had something about like things existing or not existing based on being observed or not. And then I knew that one. I was familiar with that one. The next arc has to do with one I had never heard before of. That was called Laplace's Demon, which is this whole concept of, if you can predict every move of everything to happen, that you're going to take this demon will take the precise measures they need to get the result they want. Is it'll move through time in a precise manner to enact a thing. And that's cool. I'll never forget that now. I've never used that information, but it's really interesting that I learned that from here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Bridget, you just reminded me when you were talking about something that happened recently. So the 2020 Winter Olympics, for anyone who's listening who likes the Olympics, you probably saw the moment where Simone Biles was unable to perform at the Olympics due to some mental shutdown. And And that was literally like Rascal, the show, in real life. And it was really interesting to see. And it actually produced a lot of incredible, healthy conversation around the topic of mental illness and some other stuff. But like, it literally was as if the show had come to life, and it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you made me think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was a good, I mean, as far as like the Olympics thing, it was a good reminder of like your mental space can affect your physical being. Because like with her, it was so crucial for her to be able to be in the right headspace in order to safely land her moves and like not, I think it's called like the spins or something, where like you, while you're in the air,
Twisties.
yeah, the twisties or something, you like literally can't find where you're supposed to land, so it can literally end with you breaking your neck. So it's like it's a good reminder, like what if we all took our mental health that seriously, even even if it's like, oh well, you might not break your neck, but it's like a good reminder, and as well as this show. So I like that you tied that in, because that's true. Yeah, for sure.
All right, here's a question.
What yeah, go
I'm gonna
ahead.
toss. What's everybody's favorite arc out of this season? Because we got Mai's arc, then Kaede, then Futaba, and then
The demon girl.
Shoko, or no, Tomoe?
Yeah, Tomoe.
Tomoe. Yes.
The
I believe
the
that's them,
Laplace
and then
demon girl.
yeah, then she's the Laplace the other one, and then I guess Sakuta is Resolution. Which ones do you guys really? What do you guys? What was that good one?
I think that the first one with Mai was, I have two favorites for different reasons. The first one with Mai was my favorite just because it like started their relationship and everything, and they had like, I feel like it was the most interaction between the two of them. So that one was just like, it was nice to see that. And then the other one, I would definitely say Kaida, because it was the most impactful, I would say, like the most powerful emotional one. So those are my two favorites for different reasons.
I agree entirely, actually. Those are my two as well.
I think it's in a across the board agreement.
Yeah. So the one that I didn't like, I actually didn't really like the Laplace demon one, because I mean, maybe this was probably the goal of it, but it felt like it went on for forever. And like it was so slow, but it probably was meant to do that, because that was the whole goal, is like Groundhog Day over and over again. So it like drove me nuts by the end, of it.
That
But it's probably
that
the
was
point.
the idea.
Yeah, I think it. I don't know if it. I don't know. I don't know if I can say it needed that space, because it did feel like it dragged on. Though when it hit that next layer of what was going on, when she looped again after they thought it was resolved, that I just that hit for me. So I'm glad they took the time for that.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
true.
it did drag on a bit.
That was
And
the
that's
point, though.
also
So they
one-
did it well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that one. I don't think I connected with that one well out of all of them.
I actually did connect with that one pretty well. It wasn't my favorite. My favorite were the ones we mentioned.
Yeah.
But I tracked it pretty well. Maybe because of experiences I've had in my life that are similar. Where like younger girl likes older boy, he doesn't feel the same. Like I've been in that situation a couple times. So I don't know. For me, like it was relatable.
He's a player, Your Honor.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. There's just so much good
Bridget,
here.
I have a question for you. So none of us gave it a perfect 10. Bridge, what were some of the things you weren't super like? What were some things that kept it from being higher? What things didn't you like?
Yeah, I need to think back on it. I didn't, some parts felt kind of slow. And sometimes it felt like it was detracting from, like, I wanted to see more of certain things throughout where they didn't. And there were some things that they chose to focus on that I didn't really care about as much. Like, I wanted to see more of Mai and Sakata. But then they would go on, and I get that, like, the side stories were important to like further the point of the show, but I'm not trying to be spoiled because they definitely did more scenes of them together than any other, romance anime of that kind, so I'm not trying to be too picky, but yeah, there's just some things uh that I didn't really care about that much that were going on. That's what comes to mind right now. But I'm sure if as you guys bring stuff up, I might remember more.
I know what mine is for sure. Unless somebody else wants to speak up.
Go, Brayden.
Yeah. So the one note I that I mean they could have done they could have figured this out. I swear they could have. Where why I know our main character boy had a mental issue. He had his adolescent syndrome. Um, but why are all the other arcs with girls?
Oh, yes. Yes, he even had a guy friend that could have had a problem.
He had
This was
a
one of
guy
the other
friend.
things. Yeah, this was one of the other things that bothered me.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Uzuki.
Is they led into the harem aspect, like the harem trope of like romance anime, but they this is mental illness. This
Yeah,
is
they didn't
teenagers with
need
mental
to.
illness. Like, name a more iconic duo. You know what I mean? You have your
Oh.
swap to pull. Just pull some guys in, please.
Yeah,
Make them
I
feel
also just
represented a
remembered
little
another
bit.
thing. I remembered another thing that I didn't like, which someone else will probably bring up, but
Oh.
the whole the little sister thing. They did not need to have her
Oh.
act like that. They could have gotten away with just
I
being a
just-
normal brother-sister relationship. She did not need
like,
to wake
she
up
could
in
have been
his bed.
sheltered. Yeah,
she did
no.
not.
Or
That
making
did
all
not.
those
No
weird allowances.
weird
I mean,
comments.
I think that's a product of its title, honestly, and the product of like its concept. Because the first episode like had a lot of sexual charge with the bunny girl outfit, and then also with this younger sister being very like personal invasive. And they resolve both of those, but that the second one especially doesn't feel great. At the end of the show, it's revealed that Kaede doesn't remember being his brother. And so her relationship to him is not sister brother, although they do care and they've taken guardianship of each other. And so, but then even so, it's just weird and gross.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
like in the very first episode, she like makes this really, really gross comment. She like wakes up in his bed and she like says something. I won't say it here, but yeah, it's like the very first episode, and I remember when we watched it for the first time, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And luckily, it's not like too crazy throughout, but it definitely gets annoying and like eye rolly. So that was definitely the number one thing that I didn't like about it. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yep. And I just thought of a recommendation that I want to bring up later. Boop, boop, boop.
I'll mention a couple things that, in addition to what you mentioned, like the brother sister thing, definitely is a huge turnoff for me. I by the end, I didn't mind it as much as in other shows that I've seen it happen, but it still for me is just a big nope, no, thank you. The two other things I'll mention. Yes, there were some funny moments and some funny jokes of like, you're thinking lewd thoughts, aren't you? Yes. Or when she was when Sakata would ask her to like step on him, and like there were some funny kind of more mature jokes in there, but there were also times when it was like a little too much, a little overused. That being said, I was more okay with it than in other shows because it's a show about the teenage mind, and that is literally what it is for any teenage boy. So like it was not as egregious as in other shows, but it still felt a little overused for my personal taste. So that was one other thing. And then finally, the last thing is that the music was so repetitive that like every episode was the exact same thing, and that kind of grated on me a little bit. And then also the subtitles were a little wonky.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
really not good.
I mean,
Yeah, I
sometimes
remember
In
that
some
now.
places, really not good in some places, and it was actually distracting. Like I would be like,
Yeah.
wait, I gotta read that again, and then I would be like, oh crap, it's gone. So it was noticeable enough that it
yeah.
distracted me from enjoying the show.
So-
So those are a couple other little things.
I think you might specifically be referring to Tomoe because she speaks in like a lot of slang, and they translated that into English slang.
Oh yeah, it was silly.
They did, but I
And
think
it
they actually
was-
did that well. I'm just talking about the normal conversations
Yeah, it had
they would
weird
have.
grammar.
There would be some weird grammar and stuff, and like words would get mixed up. Even the adolescent syndrome in the background, it said puberty syndrome, and then in all the subtitles it said adolescent syndrome.
Yeah.
And that one mix up alone is enough to cause confusion because in English, like adolescent syndrome means literally nothing. Like
Yeah.
it is nonsense. But puberty syndrome makes a lot of sense. And they had weird like little subtitle issues all throughout that made it kind of hard to track sometimes during conversations.
Apparently, the theme though of adolescent syndrome or puberty syndrome is actually I've heard from a friend who's read a lot more manga than I have. It's actually a common theme among mangoes.
Yeah, that's like in
So,
Mangoes? Manga?
Mangoes. Yeah.
Among mangoes. They're those sweet little fruits.
Hey.
that just reminded me
Skylar,
of a recommendation.
what were some
too.
things
Sorry,
you
go
weren't
ahead.
a big fan of?
You guys pretty much already addressed it. While it was refreshing that he said what was on his mind and didn't hold back, there were times where it was just unnecessary, is I guess the best way to phrase it, where it seems like they went out of their way to make a innuendo or to make that kind of joke. And then, yeah, we also mentioned the whole sister thing.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, there's enough of those that it's not a 10.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do a little. So just as a quick recap, this was still a heavily enjoyed show. We're ending on the things we didn't like, but I mean, those things all distracted so minorly that our lowest score here is an 8.5. We have two 8.5s and two 9s, which is really high. So definitely a good show. Okay. From here, let's transition over into our technical assessment. So the way this works is we have 4 categories for our technical ranking. We have art, story, characters, and delivery. We rank each one on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being terrible, 5 being exceptional, and 3 for all categories is meh. Meh is what you would expect from a decent show. It doesn't stand out for being good or bad. After we rank all these, the total is divided by 2, and we get a 1 to 10 ranking on technical accomplishment. One note here, you don't need to agree with us. That's okay. It's just this is just our opinions on how we think the show did in these categories. We're not setting a law down that we think everyone should agree on. We're just agreeing together today. So, with that being said, we always start with art, which includes music, animation, sound design, art style, and the intro and outro songs. 1, terrible. It is frequently bland, poorly done, and or repetitive. 5, exceptional. The composition always delivers powerful moments in an excellent fashion.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to start in by shouting at the opening song and the actual song for that matter, especially the intro. Like I felt sad that because I was told, I believe by Skylar, that I absolutely cannot watch the intro because of the spoiler effect that every single anime seems to have. That's too bad because it's a catchy song. Like
That was
just
good.
that zinger, that little catch in, it gets me every single time. I love it.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Bridge, you mentioned animation.
Yeah, I liked the character design and everything. They just were really, really cute. Yeah, I don't know. And I think didn't it have like some like really nice like I don't know if it was like watercolor backgrounds or something, but it had a lot of really pretty scenery if I remember right. So I don't know much about
It did.
animation,
There were some
but
ocean scenes and some water.
Yeah.
Some cool scenes there.
yeah, I don't know
rain
much
and
about
stuff. Yeah,
animation,
there were some
but
nice
they
ones.
were very nice to look at. So I liked that
That's good.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in my rewatch, I kind of just wanted to make a note, not like nothing so that came to me in awe, but the fact that the animation kept active. Like it didn't stay on a static shock with like mouth movements or simple movements. They kept going to the right scenes they needed to enact the thing. They kept making movements that that were that lent to the natural movement of the characters. While there was some like notable clipping between scenes or between frames at times, like it wasn't like a fluid motion of animation. There was a lot to it. I felt that was pretty dynamic of a shot by shot. Especially
I like it.
especially in the conversations about the quantum physics. Is they went to the coffee, they went to this side, they went to the chalkboard, they looked outside, looked at a thing in his memory or something. Like even when they're having a long talk in a static scene, they kept it dynamic in the animation.
Yeah, I remember that
It wasn't
too.
ever too repetitive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which maybe is more of a delivery standpoint than an animation standpoint.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
okay,
good
well
point.
then the animation at the least it's okay.
Yeah, it's nice to look at. I'll throw out that I mentioned this already, but I think the music was a really weak point for the show. Super repetitive. Really not like there wasn't any unique themes or it was. I think it was a weak point of the show. So I think it was kind of repetitive and
I didn't notice it.
Me and Bridget are musicians, so we like always listen to the music of every show like intently. So like it's a big part of it for us. I wouldn't
shout anything out too big in like sound design either. I don't remember anything notable about effects or interactions or immersion that came out of sound otherwise. So not great on the sound score. There's honestly not a lot to talk about. We really want to talk about story and characters. There's not a lot to talk about here, I don't think. How are we feeling on
Skylar,
score?
did you have any other thoughts for art before we?
Art to me, in terms of just the animation and everything else, is meh to good. Where, kind of like Bridget said, or like there were good backgrounds, but you draw those once, and then that's your plate that you kind of do all your animation on top of. There wasn't anything flashy. There wasn't anything that noteworthy. And that's why I say it's meh to good on animation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there just wasn't anything that good, but at the same time, there also wasn't anything bad that I noticed.
Yeah.
So
or too bad, because you kind of mentioned that there were a couple of times where it was a little off, but those were very minor.
Yeah.
And very rare.
So I want to look at our rubric here, and in the good category, the composition often delivers powerful moments in excellent fashion. I don't think it hits that.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be like a 3.5 or something.
I'm erring on the 3 and 3.5 category for this one.
I would honestly say kind of around a 3.2 because I don't think it really stands out for anything good or bad. The music was a little bad. The animation was a little on the good side, so it kind of just evens out.
The intro when I actually listened to it was nice. It was on the better side. That will bump the score up on the side, but I don't know if that quite hits even up to a 3.5. I'm fine with a 3 here. I'm
good with 3.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Clean. Well, guys.
3 for art. That takes us to story, which includes plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, and tropes. 1, terrible. It was frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. 5, exceptional. It was always consistent, well-paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point for mood and tone, and unique. I'm gonna throw out one thing.
Yeah, start.
I'm going to throw out one thing for story before we even begin, because I know we have a lot of good things to say about it. One thing I'll throw out is the ending of the show. The thing I'm pointing about the ending of the show is that there are still open questions when the show ends.
See, that's what I was going to talk about too.
And I think and let me let me say that it's clearly intentional because a movie did come out and the movie was intended to answer a bunch of those questions.
Yes, it was.
We're not gonna let our rating of the movie influence our rating of the show, but I am gonna say that I feel like the ending of the show from a story perspective was disappointing and a little inconsistent with how well they delivered on the rest of the components of the show. In fact, when Bridget and I were watching it together, she even mentioned after the last episode, she said, "So wait, what happened to Sakata? What was this? What happened?" And so it just, I think they fell a little short on the ending of the show. I'm bringing that up as the only detractor I can think of because I think everything else is actually pretty fire.
We got some more notes here besides just saying pretty fire because the tropes were not great.
That's true. Okay, that's true. But
before we get that far, like it,
Yeah.
I mean, you're exactly right. The show set up for the movie to resolve its story. It was a season to a movie. The movie was terrible. The movie was so bad. Like, sure, they left us up with some questions and we wanted more out of the story, so we were eager for more. And then they landed with that to wrap it together. And boy, howdy, did it not land. Man alive. I just read a synopsis. Enjoy the season. Read a synopsis to get some wrapping, finishing bows on it because it is not satisfying at all to watch how they resolved it. It's horrid. And I don't know why. There has to be some studio change of hands or something, but it's just not good.
Well, for the movie, I think that it's honestly just the story itself, because if we look at the way the novels and the arcs are set up, is that every novel is an arc of itself. So the first novel is just Mai.
Okay.
The second novel is of the demon of Laplace. That's it. That's
the
only thing that
I like
novel...
to refer to her as the demon. I mean, yes, but
well, and in that sense, then I'll say the third novel is The Witch.
yeah. Man, some of those names, right?
Hey, but anyways, and so I think that if, especially where there's another season coming out, that if the movie was instead a part of the season and there were other arcs that were better or worse that kind of tied into it, it might affect that.
Yep.
Where kind of like how we're talking here, where the second arc wasn't one that we really cared for, even though it was still good, it might be a situation like that.
And to note, again, the reason a lot of our conversation why we didn't like the second arc was because it felt long. It felt like it took too much time. But it was still a really cool, interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I want to zoom us back into Happy Land because they wove that nonsense. This is a rug crew. This is a tapestry. This show, this arc, this season, while it has frayed ends at the end of this loom they've been putting together, it doesn't say that the rest of it isn't beautiful. It is so good to watch and just see it realized time and time again.
I love that analogy, Braden. I love it. And in fact, I'm going to expand on that analogy by what I kind of brought up in my enjoyment, which was if you ever see someone like weaving something or making something, I was on TikTok again and I saw this influencer doing Bridget, what's it called when you have like the little circle wood ring and then you put the cloth on and then you
embroidery.
Yeah, thank you. I was watching this lady do embroidery and it started out pretty simple, like outline of a mountain or something, and then she turned it into this freaking insane, realistic looking landscape with like deer and all these things, and I could not believe it. And it literally was like you had just mentioned, like it's this tapestry that starts out like, yeah, you can see the mountains, and she's gonna weave a little mountain landscape. That's cool. And then by the end, your mind is just exploded by how incredible this thing looks, and you were not expecting it. So yeah, I agree with you totally. I think the story of the show because they told so many stories on so many levels, amazing, exceptional.
Well, and that's where honestly, like, the season that's about to come out, the light novel for that I don't think is out yet either.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't read the last two light novels, which is the movie and Potential Beyond, or just the movie. And so it could be a second arc thing, because Tomoe, who is the focus of the second arc, she doesn't go away after the second arc.
No. Good.
And she is a character that does things in future arcs to help with this, help with that, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so, kind of like, Brett just said, there could be some things that happen in the second season where opinions change based off of what happens there, or other pieces that we didn't see at first fall into place. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Where there's more coming out, it's hard to pass judgment.
yeah. So to talk about this season, I want to talk about some specific points and why I want to propose this one as a 4.5.
Wait. Before you do, Braden, I just wanted to verify what I had said at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So apparently there's no official release date because the second season was never confirmed of the show. But there's like tons of like chatter online saying that like it's going to be coming. There's no official announcement.
Oh.
The 12th volume of the novel has been announced, but so anyway, it's not a 100% confirmed thing, but it's like tons of people are chatting about it online. So it seems something is going on.
So I want to talk about this 4.5 I'm proposing here. This because the complete story involves the movie and we're rating the season. This story is best talked about in its arcs, and the arcs are great. The four or five different stories they tell, interesting, emotional. They set their own pace. They set their own rules, and they kind of let you know that it's kind of ambiguous. And then because it's mental illnesses that we're referring to, I allow that. And then they have these threads that weave it throughout the whole thing. They have the threads of the main relationship with Mai and Sakuta. They have Kaede. They have the scientist friend. I'm running through names way too quick. Futaba, thank you. That explains things in every arc. And also those things are not just side things that like help that come in, swoop in. They're major functions of the story. All three of those characters that I mentioned are throughout the whole thing and major arcs. That's fantastic. We have some hiccups. We like the tropes we were talking about earlier, and the ending of it. But that does not. I think it's just too good of a thing to let it fall too flat. It falls.
Yeah.
It falls, like we've said, down from a 5, not up from a 4.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I think if we even read our description, it was often consistent, well-paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point, and unique. I think it was more often than not that thing. Was it always? Not necessarily. So yeah, I think a 4.5 is spot on.
Yeah. Go with the 4.5.
Lock it in.
Sweet.
And thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
You're welcome.
Also, as a reminder, I usually say this in the beginning, but for anyone who wants our personal rubrics or our technical rubric, you can actually find those on our website, 3out10anime.com. Okay, moving on to characters. We've got design, development, motivation, action and inaction, relationships, and personality. Number 1 score, terrible. Characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying. 5, exceptional. They are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable.
Oh, no. Wait. Hold up. Skyler sees it. Correction, that our website is not 3out10anime.com. It is 310anime.com. The number's 310, the word anime.com.
Thank you. Appreciate
Branding
it.
is still pretty new for us. We're getting it.
We went through a lot of different domain
Yes,
names,
we did.
and I forgot that's the one we landed.
All right, characters. I like them.
Okay.
I like them a lot.
Good characters.
Good characters.
I think the characters were done extremely well as the story was.
Mm-hmm.
Because kind of like we mentioned, again, we just keep on going back to Tomoe's arc, even though it's the one that not everyone enjoyed.
Mhm.
But I think that that's the best example of how well characters were handled.
Oh,
Because
100%.
again, like Tomoe, where it's like, yeah, she got shut down pretty hard, and their relationship after all of that is what it should be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love
Mhm.
that every character, because like we're talking about Tomoe again, she has her certain speech style, right? That her speech style is part of her character. And the way she sees the world, she like is all hung up on popularity. And like they're able to dialogue down to a point where they're talking at the same level, but they don't start there at all. And they don't
yeah.
rest there either. Tomoe wants to go back to the popularity freshman, mentality that she's comfortable with, and her character pulls towards that. Sakata pulls towards himself, Mai towards herself, and they interact, and I feel it. I see them interacting as themselves, as independent characters, and not as tropes. But we do throw on some tropes as part of their actions and part of storytelling. Their characters are realized, especially Kaede, who we've said, all right, you're getting the incest sister approach for some weird reason. Stop that, you. You are a cool character. You're saying impactful things. You made me cry because bugger it all. You're nuts. You just what you needed to resolve was so beyond my comprehension that it hit me. It hit me in a very real sense when it turns out that she has been living for Sakata as his sister for years and trying to get over all the stuff she's been going through. And then that gets wiped. And there's another character behind that character. It comes back.
Yeah.
I'm all crying now. This is jeez.
And I'm gonna also throw out two other thoughts on the character point. So number one, why the characters did what they did, like their motivations, were really relatable and clear and understandable. And that's because their relationships were also so well defined and executed on so well. Like the relationships felt natural, they made sense, and people progressed in a dynamic way throughout the show, and they kept referencing times at which they had experienced change rather than just the whole thing where it's like, okay, you have the story arc of Tomoe, and then after that she just never references what she went through ever again. And no, she brings it up, and their relationship continues to evolve. So the fact that the characters continued to change throughout the show and reference what they went through, the most static character was Futaba, but even then she would reference it every once in a while, but her character was more that static personality anyway, so you would expect it. So yeah, like really, you watch this show for the story and the characters.
Well, and even Futaba, she went through some stuff. She still changed. She still did those things.
Yeah, no, a lot.
And she has a side romance that I ship so hard. Yeah.
Isn't the best friend's name what's the best friend's name?
Who knows?
It's Kunimi.
Kunimi, yep.
Kunimi. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I gotta shout out a character real quick while we're on the subject of characters. Kunimi's girlfriend.
Yeah, she was
Kunimi's girlfriend,
so
man,
fun.
she is biting and mean, and she hates the main character just because he's pulling he's pulling her boyfriend away from her, like to have like normal conversations and hang out. Like, oh, jeez,
Well,
just stop that.
So even though we're beyond the story, the thing about tropes, and I'll just bring it up just for the clarity of the audience, not all tropes are bad. Some tropes are good. And so when we rate that trope, we're discussing their overall handling of the tropes. Because if they do nothing unoriginal for it, or if the tropes hinder the story, then that's a bad thing. But if they use the trope of the cheerleader, hyper popular girl to further the story, then that's a good thing.
I want to toss in on that actually. So these characters, I mean, the tropes that these characters do exhibit that we have a problem with inhibit the story, but they don't inhibit their characters. They flush why they do what they do into the whole thing, like the whole way through. We have a problem with why they decide to go that route, but now we don't have the problem with the characters. The characters, well done, very well done.
Yep. So what are we thinking? For characters,
Go for it. People,
I'm
believe in yourself.
I'm looking up toward the 5 range. I really think the characters were I think they were always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable. Like, you could argue that maybe there's moments where they are not those things, but I think those moments are so small that these are really exceptional characters in my mind.
And we rate on a every half point basis. So if this leans down to a 4.9 or 4.8, it's stuff we have acknowledged, but it's not enough to pull it down to our 5 rounding. I agree. This is a 5 anime for character.
Yeah.
Bridge, what do you think?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
5.
A 5 character
This show is so agreeable.
show. Yeah, that's not common. That's not common
No.
here. So,
I know.
side note: the only other show we have given a
I
5
know.
characters for is Haikyuu.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, just
I was thinking
Point that
about
out.
that.
okay. So let's get into delivery. So we are going to translation, voice acting for both sub and dub. We do not dock shows for bad dubs because that's the default. Script
part.
and the edit.
Yep.
1, terrible. The delivery is frequently cheesy, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. 5, exceptional. The delivery is always believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching. It really takes it to the next level.
So Brayden brought up something previously in this category. Brett, you brought up something previously in this category. I will add one thing real quick to this category, and that because I've read the light novel, it actually brought to mind how well the voice acting of this was, which I normally don't really go that into.
Yeah, elaborate.
But well, it's different when you're reading a book and you have like your mental image and you have your mental voice. But because I've seen the anime and I was thinking about how they deliver their lines, it's like, yeah, that is this character. It embodies this character so well.
I agree, actually. One thing that I really enjoyed is that the voice actors for this show were not your copy-paste
Funimation actors.
romance anime voice actors, right? The girls didn't all have high-pitched voices. The boy didn't have the traditional half animated voice. Like, he had a very bland tone, but then he would get very dynamic when he needed to. The girls had very relatable voices. I think the voice acting was, I agree with you, a strong point to this show.
Did anybody listen to the dub?
I did watch parts of it dubbed. So before this, I went on YouTube and I watched some clips of it dubbed, as I usually do before the show. And the parts that I saw were bad. Like really bad. Like, really cheesy, not acted well, just... I think that in general of most dubs, just so everyone knows, to be clear, we have a list of like 5 anime that we say you should watch dubbed.
Absolutely.
Like, you should watch these one dubbed. They are better dubbed. We recognize that. I would not say this is one of those shows. I would say it's...
Yep.
Nope.
Yep, this is not the Great Pretender. That is for sure. Okay, so things that we've already mentioned that Skylar brought up were the editing, how they chopped in different episodes, how they chopped in different scenes. I was talking about like micro editing at my level. I was trying to think it was animation, but that's not correct. It's not animation. It's just they made the scene, they made talking scenes where the characters weren't moving interesting to watch. That's a good note. That was a good note.
Cinematography, is that the correct term?
I like that. Yeah, I would take that term. And then Brett,
I'll add in there that I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I'll transition into the thing I think was a really weak point was the translation, was the subtitles of the sub were, like, for me, they were below par. In fact, it's not what I'd expect from a decent show. It was lower than that. I think the subtitles were sometimes incoherent. Like you had to read through it. And even the main point of the show, puberty syndrome being called adolescent syndrome, was just it just wasn't a good subtitle
that is
translation.
a whole doc. Like that's not okay. Get your branding consistent on your made up magic story. Come on.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good translation.
Yeah.
For the show.
Yeah.
So where does that land us?
Yeah, it lands us in a weird spot. It's definitely a pull in a couple directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I think, I don't know. I feel like if I were just doing it myself, like I would parse everything else that we talked about into like a 4 category, and then the script, or not the script, the script was really good. The translation would be like a 2 for me, so I'm like maybe meet in the middle. I don't know. But yeah, the script would be, because our definition for 2 is the delivery is sometimes cheesy, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. It says sometimes, not always. So I would be comfortable with saying that the translation was sometimes incoherent, like Brett said. So I don't know.
Agreed.
I don't know if that makes. I don't know if that means that you make it go in the middle, or if you just go with one or the other. The translation didn't like ruin the show for me, so I don't think it would be fair to like lean more in that direction, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
I think you said something interesting, which is that there were like 3 points that were leaning toward 4 and 1 point that was leaning toward 2.
Yeah.
So maybe the scale is heavier on the 4 side, so maybe it's a 3.5.
Yeah.
Because there were some things that definitely pulled up. Like the voice acting was notably like lovable. Like the voice acting of the Japanese actors was really good. And again, I would toss again the edit thing I wanted to talk about, in that landed on a strong side. That was enjoyable. That was a notable thing that stood out to me time and time again. That pulls it in a very strong thing, even though we have other issues with the anime. Are we wanted to say a 3.5 then?
I'd be comfortable with
Skylar?
Yeah, go ahead, Sky.
Yeah, just with the subtitles. I did check the book, and the official translation is adolescent syndrome.
Okay.
But to me, puberty syndrome, adolescent syndrome, they're basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
but
it just had like both of them sometimes.
And that's where it's like, I am willing to dock them on not picking one and going with it for the duration of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I am willing to dock them for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 3.5 sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go with a 3.5.
Ooh,
all right.
Shiny.
So, to recap, we had art, a 3, story, 4.5, characters, 5, delivery, 3.5, giving us a total final score of 8.
And crew?
Technical score of 8.
That is our number 2 highest rated technical anime we've reviewed on this show. It's second to Sword Art Online, the first 14 episodes.
Yeah, first 14 is a good clarification.
Every time.
And again, this is our opinion. We are not saying it's law for everybody. You're welcome to disagree. But we are saying that Bunny Girl Senpai is an 8 out of 10 from a technical perspective, based on the categories we have reviewed today. All right. So, if people enjoyed watching Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, what should they watch next? What recommendations do y'all have?
I've got one.
Go for it.
Your Name.
Yeah, I was going to say that one too.
So, Your Name also deals with adolescent syndrome and is also a romance, and a very good one.
And it's a movie, not a show.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's a good
Gorgeous. People
Such
say
a
like
good-
it's like Studio Ghibli quality, although it's more like it's a more modern version of very, very nice animation.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure it's like won
Beautiful.
awards and stuff. It's
Yeah,
very-
I've seen it
very
5
cool.
times.
Yeah, me
It's very,
too.
very good.
I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Like I rarely go to see shows many times, like multiple times in theaters. I watched that one 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
in like the 1 week, because everybody was watching it. Everyone wanted to go see it, so we went and did that.
I wish I saw that in theaters.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be so
Good. All right, I got a couple recommendations.
Go for it.
Bridget, you said you had one as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say Your Name, and then also my other one is Golden Time, which is a romance. I wouldn't say it's adolescent syndrome because the characters are adults, like college age, but it does get into the whole like supernatural things going on while it's also a romance, and it's also very,
Oh.
very, very good.
I haven't heard of this one yet. What's it called?
Golden Time. It's the
Golden
same
Time.
studio that did Toradora, which is why I love it so much.
Oh, Toradora. That's a fun one.
Yep.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, it's
Braden.
very, very good.
Golden Time is
Golden Time
is
Grimgar.
great.
Golden Time Grimgar. I got it.
Uh-huh.
It's coming.
Yes. In fact, I gave Bunny Girl Senpai an 8.5. I give Golden Time a 9.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I gave it a
That's
9.
good.
I loved it. Now, granted, I wanted more of the romance part of Bunny Girl Senpai. Bridget mentioned this. I was like, I'm always greedy. I want to see them be together more. I want to see them kiss. I want to see them hold hands and cuddle and like I want to see those things happen. So yeah, that's part of one of the things that kind of brought my personal enjoyment rating down just a little bit. But yeah, Golden Time is up there, man.
Got
That's
it.
great.
All right. So one of the ones I had was Steins Gate. Because Crew, it's a lot of the same beats. You got some crazy sci-fi stuff happening that involves character stories, backstories, like heavily affecting the natural world, in a way that if things don't get fixed, like everything's gonna go bad. It's a big time travel escapade, and it approaches it in a really unique way. And Crew, this is one you have to watch dubbed. You have to watch it dubbed. It's to the point, we've said this before. This Science Gate's dub is so good that watching it sub takes away from the story. Like watching the translation it's insufficient to how good the voice acting is. It is amazing.
Yeah.
So, and it also hits in much the same like deep conversation realm where they go into people's problems and motivations in a very touching way. Like you got to be ready to sit down and get some sniffles because they're gonna pull out some stuff and a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sacrifice in that one. And then also, if you like the interaction between the main two characters and they just have that punchy humor, but wanted something so lighthearted, it's only 5 minutes long per episode. I'm gonna also recommend I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying, which is this ridiculously cute little anime about a girl that married this guy, not realizing he was an otaku, and they're making it work. To note, I want to throw a warning. They have a lot of sexual like conversations that are inappropriate on different levels. That you need to be ready to either just like let blow past your brain because it's a reference you're not going to get, or you're gonna be like, okay, I mean, no. And then it's going to go right past.
And if you're into the brother sister thing, hey, that show's got that too.
It does have it. It definitely does. Just right on past.
But it is a cute show. It is a
and
cute show.
for 5 minutes long, it's really punchy comedy. If you like punchy rom-com stuff, it's very cute.
Sweet.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kaguya-sama, Love is War.
No, yeah.
Yes.
So that's a good romance comedy. And they have a new season coming out for that. At the time that we've recorded this, it has not come out yet. However, I am current on the manga, and depending on how far it gets, I'm excited.
It's really, really funny. The first season is absolutely hilarious. I'm actually going to recommend 2 movies.
Okay.
Skylar got me in the movie mood. So the 2 movies I'm going to recommend are one that's really deep and one that's slightly less deep. So I'm going to recommend first A Silent Voice,
Yeah.
which is...
I'm gonna cry
So
again.
Your Name was recommended, which was beautiful. And this is like Your Name, really beautiful, stunning, and gripping, but it's pretty deep, and it's even in some ways it's like harrowing.
Trauma warning on that one.
Yeah.
Lots
Silent
of bullying.
Voice.
Lots of bullying
Yeah.
coming to.
Really good.
It's really good.
Really good. One that's a little more lighthearted, that's cute and compelling, is actually going to be Josie, the Tiger and the Fish.
Yeah.
Another romance movie that's kind of cute. It kind of reminded me of A Silent Voice, but maybe a little less traumatizing. Still has some really good emotional moments in the show, or in the movie. So those are two movies I would recommend. A Silent Voice and Josie, the Tiger and the Fish.
Yes.
Yep.
Josie the Tiger and the Fish. Okay.
One note for everybody else who's out there, just as a heads up, in general, it's not a great idea to just Google what shows should I watch. If I liked Rascal, doesn't agree with Senpai, you will get the most whack recommendations ever. Two ways I would suggest getting recommendations for shows is, number one, make a comment on our Twitter, post on our Facebook. We're always happy to give recommendations. Not saying that we're better than anyone else out there. Google just has some weird recommendations. Like one of the ones you'll find recommended is Attack on Titan.
What?
Just like
Oh.
out of nowhere, like, oh, you like Rascal? Go watch this gruesome, skin-ripping anime.
Oh.
So hit us up, and then also on the anime subreddit, every Tuesday, you can make a post in their recommendation mega thread and say, I really like these 4 shows or these 2 shows. What should I watch? And you'll have 12 people come in, comment things you should watch. It's super great. So there's another way to get recommendations. You know, we're always here, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, comments, whatever. We read them all. And then also you can hit up subreddit on Twitter, subreddit on anime on Tuesdays. Okay.
All right.
That was an awesome episode for an awesome show. Thanks for the great conversation. Thank you, Bridget, for being here as our guest. Really appreciate you being here and your awesome comments.
You.
The next show we will be covering next week is the olden time mecha anime, once described as a horny SpongeBob, Gurren Lagann. So we will be discussing Gurren Lagann next week. Join us for that. Thank you all so much for listening. Looking forward to seeing you next time. And until then, Jeanne.
See ya.
Bye.
驚いた。君にはまだ私が見えてるんだ。